Welcome back to Property Playbook. Oh, sorry. Clearly, I'm distracted today. I had brought back Jonathan and Elon, and we're talking all things power of sale and foreclosure because it seems to be a topic that gets people really excited. Like they think they're going to get a deal. I know Jonathan's smiling right now. So let's talk a little bit about what is foreclosure and what is power of sale. Maybe Jonathan, do you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go into the topic.
So I guess the most important thing to jump into from that end of it is knowing what your jurisdiction is. I know that people watch this podcast from all over the world. We're based in Ontario, Canada. And in Canada, we do things a little differently than some parts of the world, especially the US when it comes to that part of it. And here we focus on power sale, whereas in the States, you'll see more foreclosure. So in Canada, Ontario, a lot of people are not up and up on understanding foreclosure. The idea is, I'm going to take over your property. Now I own your property. Versus power sale, where I'm going to sell your property to a third party. I'm going to try to maximize and get the most sale price that I can. And then I'm going to get paid out as a lender. We're going to pay out all the existing debts. And if there's anything left over, then you, homeowner, are going to get it. But for people that are real estate investors, especially ones in the US, they're like, foreclosure sounds pretty interesting to me, that I'm going to lend this money thinking that maybe they're not going to be able to pay it. And if they are, I could just take over the property.
I'm not going to lie, though, it gets Canadians excited when they see power of sale or when they see the bank is the one selling it, because they assume it's similar to the US or other parts of the world where when the bank sells it, it's like a free for all, like they're giving the property away. And that's not the fact. Like if you've ever worked on a power of sale, like you'll know that the bank basically comes to you and says, so we have a property, they're going to go under power of sale. This is the deal. You have X amount of days to like basically get rid of the property for us. But first you need to give us a property valuation. So we give them a property valuation. We'll tell them a range. It's worth between this and this. Then on top of you giving them your valuation, they're going to go to a third party appraiser and they're going to ask the appraiser to also get an appraised value on the property. Then the bank comes up with a number. They have to show that they've done everything humanly possible to get the most amount of money possible, which means it has to be exercised to the open market for a certain period of time. It's not an offer date, it's exposure to the market. So most times you can't even offer on one of those properties until 10 days have passed. And it's not listed for an offer night, it's listed for what they want. Now, after the 10 days passed, then they'll take an offer. And the bank also has certain rules, like they won't sell it under a certain number without bank approval to get it for that number. So even if you're like, I would buy it tomorrow, no conditions, they don't really care. They're not gonna go, like they're not gonna, what's it called? Not verify. They're not gonna warrant anything. So everything's in as is condition. If HST is in addition to, that's what they're gonna write in, even though it's not in addition to, it's, included in it. They're gonna make sure that they're fully not liable for anything. And then you're gonna have to agree to it.
And then on top of all that, you've come to this point where they're not warranting anything. You could be on the hook for HST. You could be hooked on other tax issues that this person had in arrears. And then the top
non-resident and all that stuff, or what is that?
So
Some of those withholding taxes, declarations.
So depending on who the seller was originally and their status, that could be scary, obviously. And even when you pass through all the tax hurdles and everything else, let's say you and a family, they buy this property under bar sale, they get everything set up, they're movers, they found their dream house, they had a place that they rented, they gave up their lease, right? And then they find out a day before the closing that the person who originally borrowed the money found the money and paid off the bank, so the power sale is now off. They can do that right up until the moment you register.
Yeah.
And what I was going to give you as far as the metaphor goes, that people try to understand power sale and the rationality of it, I want you to think of cars, for example. Like you got a car dealership, right? And you have inventory that's not moving. So you're saying, you know what, I'm going to go to the car auction, and it's all online now, and I'm going to list my car as a dealership, and I'll see whatever I get for it. And sometimes they get a lot more money on the auction than they do trying to sell it to Joe Public. And the thinking is, like, normally I would be wholesaling it. Why am I getting so much more money on an auction? The same way I should get a deal on power sale, but yet I'm almost paying a premium now because people are excited. People are in that bid mentality. They think they're getting a deal. And when you have 3-4 people thinking they're going to get a deal and they're starting very low and up, it's almost like an auction. So I want you to think of power sale the same way, because the last few power sales I've seen, You get 20, 30 offers in, and something that was really well underpriced, you thought, and ended up going for more than the value. It can happen.
Yeah, and to me, you framed it in the perfect way, as usual, which is people are like, power sale, I'm going to get a deal. I'm going to get a deal. And the way I always look at it is, if it was such an amazing deal, I'm getting $1 million house for $600K, the realtor would buy it. The mortgage broker would buy it. The lawyer would buy it. So there isn't really a deal. Now, the other thing is, and this is an important lens, is if let's say I foreclose on Jonathan's house, and again, I use the word foreclose because it's the common term. Power of sale is a very clunky term, but I use the word foreclose and I preface it that it's probably a power of sale. And I put it up for power of sale. And I get my friend Tony to buy it for $200,000. Jonathan is the owner. He's getting screwed over. And he's going to sue me and say, Elon, why did you sell it to your buddy for $200,000? So as you said, and this is the rationale, the banks, I've heard banks want 2 or 3 appraisals and 2 or 3 realtor opinions of value, so that if he says, why did you sell my house for $1 million? It's worth $2 million. The bank has a ton of diligence to be like, we have 2 independent appraisals, 2 realtors. They all said it's worth $1 million. That's what we got. And now you can't sue me. So there's a massive, massive onus on the lender to show that they're not stealing the house or ripping off the existing seller.
I would say if the bank's in that position, they undersold it by 200,000.
Yeah.
They go to court. The homeowner is now taking them to court for it and said, "How could you do this? I should have money in my pocket. Now you put me in this position." It almost becomes now not innocent until proven guilty.
100%.
It's guilty until proven innocent.
100%. The big bank took away my house and stole my money.
The judge is going to shine the light onto the bank and say, show us every single step.
Yeah.
How did you come to the price? How did you value it? What marketing steps did you take? How did you accept the offer? They're going to do like forensic checking into this, and you have to prove every single aspect. Like not much different than if you have an estate trustee, for example, and somebody agrees to be an estate trustee on behalf of somebody who's deceased, and the beneficiaries say, I don't think you manage the estate very well, and I think you embezzled money and all that. The owner's turns on you as a estate trustee. You have to show the bank accounts. You got to show every dollar where they flow. That's why I don't want to be an estate trustee ever. And by doing power of sale, you're almost a trustee now on behalf of that homeowner and selling it.
It's also not just the bank that gets sued. Like everyone that's involved in the transaction would also get sued. So like you're like, okay, the agent will just undervalue the property. That's not how it works. Yeah. Like you need to show that you did whatever you had to do to get them the most amount of money possible. You need to show that like proper precautions were taken, like, but you're not in control of half the stuff. So it's like asking the real estate agent to do their job without asking them to do their job, because you're asking them to do it with their hands tied behind their back. And the rules are so rigid. So like I did one recently and they were like, okay, no offers for 10 days. And I had agents call me being like, so is this an offer night? And I'm like, no, it's not an offer night. We're listed at exactly what we should sell for. Please come in.
Yeah.
After the 10 days come, it ends up in multiple offers because again, it just does. People see that it's a power of sale. And you also can't put anywhere in the description that it's a power of sale. But if you look at who the seller is and it's a bank or it's a lending or it's something that doesn't seem right, it's usually a power of sale, and you'll notice it in your schedules. So the moment you go to submit an offer and you have to use their schedules, it will literally say it everywhere that they warrant nothing, and they'll butcher the agreement before they send it back to you. So you'll get it back and you're like, they just marked up a bajillion red marks, and it's like, I put that the stove and oven and fridge are included, and they just crossed it out and put as is.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're like, but the fridge and stove and oven were there. It doesn't matter.
But the owner can come in and clean it all up.
I was going to give you 2 fun scenarios, like fun by not being fun, obviously. But fun scenario number 1, which I've seen this, is you buy your house under power sale. This house under power sale, it looks beautiful, beautiful kitchen, beautiful finishes, whatever. You come for your final inspection the day before. Kitchen is ripped out entirely. All the appliances are gone. And you're saying, what the heck? And the bank will come back and say, I don't know. Maybe the kitchen guy didn't get paid and they decided to pull it out on you. Maybe somebody came in the middle of the night. We sold it to you as is, didn't guarantee you what you're getting, and now you're buying a place with no kitchen, no appliances. Not so fun. Okay.
And I don't want to scare everyone off of it, because like sometimes you do get, I don't want to say good deals, but you get a good price because it scares
or
some
you
people
get
away.
a property that you couldn't otherwise find in the exact location or lot or something.
Yeah, it
neighborhood.
does scare
It's a
people away
disgusting
too.
house that
And
you're going
this-
to renovate it.
This could work to your advantage
Yeah.
because there are people like me who will not buy under power of sale, let's say. Enough people that they say, this doesn't really work for me. And all of a sudden, you're getting a house that maybe is a little bit more of a fixer-upper, didn't get taken care
tearing
of.
it down. Who
And
cares?
whatever being, but you're getting a property you wouldn't get normally otherwise. Some
Yeah.
people can do very well on that. Absolutely.
And there's times too where you can't even go in and see a property that's under
Yeah.
power of sale.
Yeah.
So like you could have an opportunity to get a property because people are scared of buying stuff without seeing it. So if you're someone that's a little bit more risky or you're okay to take some risk, like there is a deal out there. And the bank will start lowering the price, but they lower the price in increments and they lower it after days. So like you can't go in day one and be like, I want $300,000 off the price. It's not going to happen. But after 45 days or after whatever the bank put in place, you have to send them a new report and say, this is the new report of what's being sold in the area. This is how many showings you've got or how many requests you've got or how many people have
there's a
called
lot
me
of
about it.
documentation.
You have to
Yeah, yeah.
write everything down. And then they'll be like, okay, based on this information, this is what we're going to advise like you to do next. And then they'll tell you the price. Like you can't even, like I could advise them, but they're not taking what I say as valuable as what.
They're pricing it according to like court procedures or like
100%.
court auditing or
So
something.
you might get the house or the condo or whatever for $300,000 less, but it could take you a year to 2 years to get it for that because the bank needs to show that they've done everything humanly possible to get the market value. And it's like the market speaking. We've been a year on the market. You haven't sold. We've reduced X amount of times. There's been X amount of showings. They need to prove they did not undersell the property.
Yeah, the thing to me when I look at power sale is also it's all about pricing for risk. So if like you said, and this is a nightmare, you're renting a place, you find a home, you give notice to your landlord, we're moving out, we're moving to this home, and then the day before closing, they're like, oh, the bank got paid, the power sale's canceled, your purchase agreement is canceled. I want to get a better price because that's a risk. Or they might take out all the appliances, that's a risk, or it's as is, or HST, or non-resident tax, or all these things are risks. So if one house is $1 million and it's a normal house, and one house is $980 and it's a power sale, I think you're actually getting more value buying the house at $1 million because there's, even I know in power sale sometimes they cross off the UFI clauses.
Yeah, they do.
They cross off every single standard clause, and those standard clauses are like meant. It's always, caveat emptor, but it's also, there are some basic warrants that a seller makes. And they're like, we're la, 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 like, too bad. We don't know nothing. Is there like, so I think if you're getting a $20,000 discount, I'd rather buy a normal house, so to speak.
And I'll throw in the one last fun part
Sure.
of it is day before closing, all of a sudden person shows up at the door. I've been on vacation. I'm the tenant in this property. And guess what? I ain't leaving. And nobody mentioned to you that I lived here. And that can come up as well. I've seen those. Now, that goes to court. The question is, the owner who was the landlord, did they make a fake tenancy just to be able to say there's a tenant in there to screw up the power of sale? Or was there in fact a legitimate tenancy? Nobody knew about it. They didn't notify the bank that they had a tenant living there. Tenant went to Portugal for 2 months, let's say. And one of the indications is that the owner is Smith, yet everywhere there's mention for mail and paintings and diplomas, and you see the name Jones on it. Maybe you should ask who's living in here. Like,
Yeah, it's not just that. Even when you take possession of it, like it's not broom swept condition. If they left a bunch of stuff in there, that's your responsibility. If like things don't work, it's yours now. Like have fun, and the bank won't pay for any of that. So like I had one recently. There was furniture left in the property, and I'm like, I can't sell this property like this. And I have a very I like to list properties a certain way.
No.
I'm very particular. You guys know this. So even when it is a power of sale and I know the bank's not going to literally pay for this, I'm like, I'm not letting it show like this. So I fully removed whatever furniture was in there, and then I had it professionally cleaned, and then I had it professionally photographed, and then I put 360, I put the virtual furniture in it too, which by the way, the bank pays for none of that. They also you can't talk about commission with them either. It's all fixated. It's the bank's way or
Yeah,
the
it's
highway.
It's to them, it's just a form, right?
So
It's just
even when
getting
you're
there.
asking for like a status certificate, like every condo purchaser in the history of buying a condo gets a status certificate to review.
Or should.
Traditionally, or should. Traditionally, though, the seller pays for the status certificate. In a power of sale, guess what? The buyer's paying. So keep that in mind. It's not just about, there's also some other fees that you wouldn't have calculated in a normal purchase. But in this kind of purchase, be responsible to pay everything because the bank won't pay.
And sometimes you have that tenant in there, and the bank's going to tell you, you know what? We'll agree to give a notice on behalf, but we can't guarantee you that they're going to leave. So that's the best we're going to do. Most of the time, they won't even do that.
I was going to say, I'm like, I've never seen a bank.
Yeah.
They were like, here's your tenant, you deal with it.
But then you have the chance. Is that person going to leave or not? Even though I need this for my own personal use, and I am able to give it because they're month to month, there's no guarantee that tenant's going to leave. And by the way, also from the bank's point of view, there is that tenant. We know about this tenant, and guess what? That tenant may not be allowing showings. So you may have to buy it with no viewings whatsoever. Not everybody's comfortable with that.
100%. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. And we hope you enjoyed Property Playbook. And let us know in the comments, would you buy a power of sale or a foreclosure? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much, Elon and Jonathan, for joining us again. Once again, it's Property Playbook. Thank you.